Hey, everybody. Thanksgiving is canceled this year. Canceled. We're done. And Christmas is next. COVID round 2. I mean, if you thought it knocked you out the first time, if you thought the lockdowns were bad, we're doubling down. Is that good? Is that bad? Kentucky, Minnesota, Kansas, Oregon, Michigan, California, massive major lockdowns. I mean, as far as like no social gatherings. This thing's real, but is the answer the right one? And can we at least accept that we need to be able to talk about that? I'm Rob Nelson. It's Rob Nelson Live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Friday night show of Rob Nelson Live. I'm still here in Jacksonville, Florida. A little rainstorm behind me. You guys are all over on all different platforms all over the country. You know, we're streaming on, we vary sometimes what we stream on, but we're streaming on Reddit, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Periscope, not TikTok, because we don't like the Chinese. Just kidding. Just trying to loosen you guys up. Excuse me. I love all my liberal listeners out there. And it's funny because a lot of my liberal listeners think I'm a conservative. I'm not actually a conservative, but I'll have people say in comments, you know, a conservative like you or your guy, Donald Trump. I want to be clear. Donald Trump is not my guy. Okay. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. Didn't vote for Donald Trump either time. I was happy Donald Trump became president only because for years I have been the guy who has been saying both political parties are corrupt. The system is broken. We need to throw them out and put people in who aren't politicians. We need to put home wreckers in to wreck the home of government to fix it, to tear down the institutions. And I like that about Trump. I like that he was irreverent. I like that he gave politics a new twist. I like that he took on every single institution there was, from the media to the intelligence services, to the institutional bureaucracy of Washington and big government. And even if it's smaller government's bureaucracies just sink in. They're like trees. They're like the redwood forest trees. Those roots go deeper and deeper and deeper. And when they're deep enough, you can do anything you want. You can chop that tree in half. It's going to keep, heck, you can burn it with a forest fire, right? I mean, you burn through the redland forest, you know, the giant evergreen forests and redwood forest, and they grow back because the roots are so deep. Well, that's like bureaucracy. Those roots, that's what the deep state is. Deep state's not some mythical, crazy thing that, you know, I mean, some conspiracy people think it is, you know, it's QAnon and this and that and tied to international banking things. The deep state's way more simple than that. The deep state is merely the fact that institutions put down roots, and a 200-year-old government institution keeps digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and those roots grow, and they don't want to be pulled up. They want to keep growing. So I like the fact that Trump was a train wrecker in that way, but Trump is not my guy. And actually, I have some conservative views and I have some liberal views and I have some in the middle views. I'm not left, right, or center. I'm really not. I'm truly independent, which is what I think we all need to start being. You can be independent, means you can have views that reflect different sides of the same, depending on the issue. You don't need to be always as a conservative, I always think A, B, C, D, and E. As a liberal, I always think E, F, G, H, and I. It doesn't have to work that way. You can go, you know, I'm more conservative on this issue. I'm more liberal on this issue. I'm more left on this, more right on this. And it depends on the issue. Depends on, I think, depends on my own moral code. Depends on how I look at the world. Depends on a whole lot of factors. Depends on the facts at hand. Depends on the situation as it evolves, right? It doesn't mean you don't have principles. And conservatives and liberals might argue at times that their principles are different. Their principles aren't different. Their philosophy overall about governance and that kind of thing could be different. But to canceling Thanksgiving. And by the way, if you're watching us, love your interaction and feedback. We get on our Wednesday night show, we get so many comments and I don't get a chance to get to them all. So one of the things we want to do is if we're getting a lot of comments, I'll wrap the monologue up. And if I'm not responding to your comments during the show, then we'll stop and we'll just do comments and questions. We'll just run through them, and Crafty, our producer, will be collecting them as we go. So don't worry if I didn't address it. If he pops it up on screen, we're gonna literally go boom, 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 boom. Make sense? Good. But I love all your comments from both sides, and I love all the feedback I get. So about COVID and about the lockdowns. Now, I'm qualifying this up front. Yeah, it's always weird when you qualify something, but I am, because depending on which side of this equation you're on, I want you not to like shut it down on me because you're like, oh, see, because I want to be clear. I am not dismissing COVID by anything I say. I mean, no, there should be no dismissing COVID anymore. Gavin Newsom, Emperor Newsom, who I don't generally like for, not because he's a Democrat, because I just think he's doing a miserable job of managing the state of California. He was doing a miserable job before the pandemic, and he's done a miserable job during the pandemic. And don't be like, oh, he didn't have the pandemic was horrible. Everybody dealt with the pandemic. Everybody had to deal with it. It's not an easy thing to manage, but he's horrible, and he's a hypocrite, as you know, if you listen to me on Wednesday. But Gavin Newsom said, nobody at this point should still be questioning this virus. And I want to be clear about something. Because you question the strategy of combating the virus does not mean you're questioning the virus. The COVID exists. The COVID is out there. The COVID spreads rapidly. There's no vaccine for the COVID. The COVID transmits itself when we get too close and breathe on people. The COVID kills certain people. Not most people. Again, make clear on that. Mostly older, mostly sick, or people with underlying conditions. But it does kill people. And without a vaccine, that's a terrible thing. The COVID is real. Dismissing the virus, and there are some virus dismissers. Like it's not, like they've made the whole thing up. It's not really, of course it is. But questioning the strategy of combating it is not the same as dismissing it. It's questioning the efficacy of a public health policy and an economic policy and a social policy and a governance policy, and questioning whether that policy is effective. I was in California when California locked down, the initial lockdown, the first lockdown, the first state to lock down March 19th. Boom, 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 boom. The doors closed. It was like prison cells. It was a big, big shutdown. California shut down first. And I said at the time, California will open last. I'm currently in Florida, which was not anywhere close to the first to start to shut down. It shut down slowly and resistantly and opened right back up quickly. And the press hammered Florida for how deadly and dangerous a decision that was, how many people would die, how bad it would be if Florida opened up. How many lives would be lost? They were wrong. But before you go, no, I want to look through some statistics here, because I just said there have been major shutdowns, and there have been lockdowns in the last, and Democrats and Republicans. And since this is just a partisan issue, it may overall be, but it's not. Republican governors in some states are shutting down too. So let's look at a couple. Oregon cuts indoor dining. Oregon cuts gatherings of any gathering to less than 6 people indoors. Gyms, bars, all that closed. Michigan, 2 households max for Thanksgiving, you and one other household. Minnesota, don't have friends and family over for dinner. The governor of Minnesota says, I know it's tough, but you want to invite your brother-in-law over to watch the Vikings-Packer game, which, by the way, the Packers will win. The Vikings, I'm from Wisconsin, the Vikings-Packer game, you can't. That's the most dangerous thing you could do. And it's pretty severe. That's the most dangerous thing you can do. And Minnesota bans all social gatherings, not limits them to 6 or 10 people. No social gatherings, period. That's draconian. California is imposing a curfew, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And as of coming up on Sunday, Gavin Newsom is going to declare a what they call safer at home, which is just, I hate when they use the little buzzwords to make it sound good. Safer at home. Safer at home is stay the F at home. They're issuing a safer stay the F at home mandate for Los Angeles County. Meaning we are back to March 19th. You do not go out unless it's essential. Stay home unless it's essential. Unless you need to do something, a medical need, a essential business, you're allowed to shop. You're allowed, you're allowed to go to the you're allowed to go to the weed store. That's essential. Strip clubs, I'm not sure. Somehow they made it into essential businesses. That's just a whole nother story. But I mean, do your porn at home. But it's a severe lockdown. It's as severe as March 19th. It is more severe in some ways because they're adding in a curfew. And again, the curfew is a little odd. And one of the things in a lot of these states is they say bars have to close, and restaurants that serve alcohol have to close after 10 p.m. That's another weird one. If you don't serve alcohol, you might be able to stay open. But if you serve alcohol, because alcohol gives you the COVID, makes you more likely. No, I'm sure their rationale has something to do with the fact that they think that if you are at a bar, you're more likely to be hanging out and being close to people and congregating and getting a little drunk, and then bad things happen and you might spread the COVID that way. I'm guessing that's the actual reason, because otherwise, what happens at 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.? Like this COVID comes out at night. It's not, it's not Freddy Krueger. It's 24/7. But the effectiveness of these lockdowns is something you really gotta question, because, and here's where I know I'm gonna get pushback. So I went through and I did some data on this, and I'm not a statistical analyst, took statistics, but I'm a thinking person, and a lot of you are too. So I'm gonna ask you to think with me here, even if you disagree with me. And if you agree with me, I'm gonna ask you to try, while you're agreeing with me, to consider the other side's viewpoint. I'm going to start understanding that. If I give the governors of the states that are locking down the best intention pass, sometimes that's hard to do, but I'm going to give them all a best intention pass. They mean to do what's best. Now you might go, no, they don't. They're trying to let it go. Let's give them the best intention pass. They actually think they are trying to protect their state, their citizens, from a pandemic, and they've decided the right solution is to lock down. That's what happened in March, and I gave them all the best intentions pass. California locked down and has not unlocked. LA County has never opened up. Orange and Ventura counties, some counties way up north, but Marin County, LA County, they have never, ever unlocked. I mean, when they said that California's going back to the most restrictive mode, I was like, what's left to restrict? I mean, well, now the safer at home, the stay the F at home, that's the most restrictive, but with a curfew plus curfew. But, basically everything was closed. I mean, you could go shopping for groceries. They opened a teeny bit up on retail, mostly pickup type stuff, outdoor dining, again, outdoor dining, and bars that serve food. You got to have the food. The whole thing with the bar thing is you got to have food. Just FYI, somehow food makes it different. Alcohol alone, COVID kills you. Food, it's okay. I'm making fun of it because it's the most stupid thing in the world. They literally were like, if you serve food and you're a bar, you can be open. So sports bar. But if you just serve alcohol, sports bar without a grill, you got to close. And that's what they did. So anyway, they closed everything down. They've kept it closed down. My point is they barely opened it up. They squeaked it open just a little bit. Florida shut down late, resistantly, never fully, and opened right back up as fast as they could. And Florida and California are two extremes in terms of open and closed. And it goes to a psychological thing too, but just on a structural policy level. California and most of California is in a massive lockdown. Everything is closed. You are now not supposed to go out unless it's from LA County, unless it's essential, unless it's, critical. Social gatherings are hyper limited. Outdoor dining is compacted to like half what it was, which was already compacted. No indoor dining, limited going into places. Businesses are supposed to shut down. They didn't even open parks and beaches for a while. I mean, come on, guys, just think for a second. I mean, I was at Hermosa Beach. It's a massive beach in Florida. It was deserted. People were out on the streets because they were allowed to go on the sidewalk to get exercise, but you couldn't go on the beach. I mean, who thought that up? Literally. The beach is probably the safest place you could be. I know someone got a ticket for being in Marina del Rey on a paddleboard for violating the COVID policy. You're out in the ocean by yourself on a board, but you violated COVID policy. So there have been some pretty dumb things, but they closed it down hard, whereas Florida kept it open wide. And now here's my point. And here's where I come in with the stats. And I am making the side because I've said my bias. I don't think the lockdowns work. It's not that I don't think COVID's real. It's that I don't think lockdowns work. I have a reason for that. But let me show you the numbers first. Of the 10 states, according to CNN, that had and this article is a few months back. So it's not the point isn't that it's a current article, it's that it's CNN, and it was midway through the pandemic, and they highlighted with great favor and praise the 10 states that had done the most effective job of locking down, because that's how we were going to beat the COVID. Of those 10 states, 6 of the 10 have higher transmission rates in the last week than Florida. Florida's at the bottom of the list. Forget the 10. Florida's at like 51. Florida's 54. We don't even have 54. Florida's 54 on the CNN list. And Georgia's 53. We don't even make it in the 50 states. 6 of 10 have higher transmission rates in the last week per 100,000 people than Florida. That's a fact. That's not fake news. That's not conservative bias. It's not liberal propaganda. It's a fact. Minnesota, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, and Massachusetts all have a higher infection rate in the last week than Florida. And 3 of those states, Minnesota, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, Connecticut's twice as high as Florida. Rhode Island is 3 times as high as Florida, and Minnesota has a 4 times higher rate of infection in the last 8 days because they monitor them over 8-day cycles. And that's rebuilding. That's why they're doing the lockdowns. I get it. Their numbers are going up. Florida's transmission rate in the last week is just around 35 people to every 100,000 people. That's right. You might be surprised that that's how low it is. 35 to every, 34. Actually, it's like 33 or 34. It's 33 something. 33 per 100,000 people. That's not, if you think about it, that's 33 of every 100,000 people is getting COVID in the last week. Minnesota's 122, 4 times higher. And the difference between Florida and the other 4 states, New York, Washington, California, and DC, that were also in the top 10 most effective at locking down, is marginal. The difference between California and Florida, the percentage difference in the last week, California's lower. And someone on my Wednesday show said, hey, California, Florida is higher. The difference between California and Florida is 0.01%. 0.01%. Florida is 0.01% higher this past week in cases than California, which is in a severe and massive and ultra lockdown. My point and the logic of this is, I'm asking you seriously, we got to be able to talk about this. Put your politics aside, both sides. Because again, if you're on the right side of this, because it tends to be more conservative, and sadly, that's not always true. There are a lot of people who are in the anti-lockdown who actually aren't on the right, but you assume they are. But if you're on the anti-lockdown side, be open to the fact that people locking down are doing it primarily because they think it will work. There may be ulterior negative motives. You can hold those aside for a minute. Let's give them, again, the best intention benefit of the doubt. But if you're on the left side of this, or again, not all COVID lockdown people are on the left, but that's what we have assumed. That's why I'm saying that narrative. But in reality, there are people who aren't. But if you're on the lockdown side, be open to the fact, to the common sense fact that a state like Florida, where I am, which is wide open, trust me, it is wide open. People have masks, but it is wide open. In a coffee shop today, there was a restaurant next to me full of people out buzzing around, people on the beach, people on their bikes, people in stores, people going to meetings, people going to church, kids going to school. Not all schools and not everything. It's not open like it was pre-COVID, but it's open. It's not pre-COVID. Nothing's going to ever be pre-COVID again. You only get the vaccine. We're going to have a little COVID in the brain for the next decade. But it's wide open comparatively. It's normal life. You don't feel particularly constrained unless you think putting on a mask is constraining, which it isn't. You put it on, you walk in, you take it off. I see people at tables. Some have masks on, some don't. They're at the same table. They're chatting away. One guy decided to keep his mask on for his own reasons. He doesn't want to get it. He doesn't want to give it. He's going home to an older person or someone with an underlying condition. The other people aren't. They're all chatting away, friendly, happy. Nobody's like, get your mask on. But if somebody says, put your mask on, most people will. Common sense that California, as closed as it's been since March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 8 months, and now closing further. And Florida never fully closed, barely did it and opened as fast as it could. 0.01% difference higher in Florida. And Florida lower than 6 of the 10 states that did lockdowns. Which part of maybe lockdowns aren't stopping the spread? You go, no, but if we hadn't locked down, it would have been worse. Based on what? Based on what it would have been worse if we hadn't locked down. States like Florida that didn't lock down are not significantly worse. Now, in some states, you might argue, well, that's not true. Say, like, take some of the, like North Dakota. There are some rural states that did almost nothing that are having surges right now. But I'd argue that's not because they didn't lock down. Their population density, the whole thing is different. Lockdowns would be a whole different function. It was inevitable that rural states were going to get it later and a different kind of spread. Just think about the demographics of it versus why New York City got hit so hard. New York City, by the way, has unlocked many things, and its numbers aren't extremely high. It's actually in the lower chunk. It's not the bottom of the bottom, but it's just below Florida. A couple people per 100,000 below Florida. So it's New York locked down in the beginning because it made sense, but they've opened up a lot. So the notion that a lockdown inherently works, it made sense in a metropolis like New York when it was spreading. I get it. COVID spread like wildfire there. You had Tinder everywhere. But it's not the same everywhere. And certainly all of California is not a dense population zone. LA even isn't. LA's not New York. LA's spread out way more than New York. It's a lot of people, but it's not packed on top of each other like Manhattan. I mean, Manhattan, you're like sardines. There's no grass. There's no daylight. I live there. So common sense should tell you that at least make you think, why would these states that locked down, and you pick on California because it locked down early and hard and never let up the gas. And now it's locking down further and it's still seeing a rise in cases. What does that tell you? That maybe the locking down isn't solving the problem. Because, and here you go, well, how could that be? Well, here's how it could be. It could be that way because the people most likely to get COVID and the people most likely to have severe reactions, not everyone, plenty of people, everyone's going to, well, I know someone who got COVID. I do too. Most people I know a number of people who got COVID, not very many, but I know some, and I know certainly, and I travel lots. I've heard of someone else who has it, friend of a friend, that kind of thing. I know almost none who had, I know a couple who had very severe cases with it. Nobody who died. A couple had severe cases. Most I know had almost nothing, mild symptoms, the whole deal. The reason why COVID could spread even in a lockdown is the reason why everybody died in the nursing homes in New York. A story a lot of people like to look past. Governor Cuomo put everyone into the nursing homes and then everybody started dying. The vulnerable population locked down, it gets a little exposure. It doesn't matter. It's going to get it. Especially if the vulnerable population isn't isolated and protected in the most effective way. Older, sicker people are going to get the disease with any exposure at all. That's why you'll have those numbers even in a lockdown. Why wouldn't you have massive more numbers in an unlockdown? Because in Florida and California, you're seeing most likely that the more vulnerable populations are getting it more. They certainly got it more early on. They certainly got sicker early on. They certainly died more early on. And over time, as California stays locked down and Florida opens up, the reason the numbers aren't flying through the roof is because Floridians aren't all just getting it because you got a healthier population. There could be some partial herd immunity in that. There could be some that a lot of people get it and don't even know they have it, since 40 to 50% of people, according to the CDC and Dr. Fauci, are likely to be asymptomatic, meaning you'll never know you had it. You won't have a little cough. You have nothing. So lots of people could get it and not, and there's an argument that by getting it, you could actually, as more people have it, that's the herd immunity. We're not talking full herd immunity, but that actually you could actually increase people's ability to resist it. So an open state like Florida isn't rising any faster because the healthier population's fine. A lot of people probably get it and don't know. People are getting it and aren't being tested because they're fine. So the numbers are probably higher because it's people who are healthy, who are either I just got a cold, I feel sick, or I'm fine, or I didn't even know. So the number of people that you're actually flagging in is, smaller. So maybe the numbers are actually higher in Florida, but they're just not actually destructive because it's not impacting people negatively. But at some level, you got to go. You got to think and go, one state closed the whole time, the other state open the whole time. Both have big population centers. Both are big U.S. states. One is not significantly different than the other. The difference was the lockdown. So maybe lockdowns don't really work because a disease like this just spreads the minute you unlock anyway. And I said that day one. The myth of the lockdown was that the minute you unlocked, we locked down half the nation when we had 3,000 confirmed cases nationwide in mid-March. If that was enough to do a massive lockdown, you're going to have more than 3,000 cases floating around out there at any given point in time when you lift the lockdowns. I don't care when it is. You're going to have more than 3,000 cases. Lock down everybody for 6 months. Everybody, you're still going to have more than 3,000 cases. So eventually, every time you open up, you're opening up to a bunch of people who have new cases coming in because you're going to have thousands of cases everywhere all the time. So inevitably, as soon as you unlock, people are going to start getting sick again. They just will. So it was a problem with a lockdown. It was never going to work. It was never going to work because you could never keep everybody locked down. Everybody locked down. Everybody to literally stomp out the disease, to get the last piece of the fire out. So that ember is going to be cooking away and starting something else. As soon as you put some more wood on it, it starts another fire. That's how it works. That's why the lockdown didn't work. The lockdown did do was cause massive, massive destruction. If you are in California, I don't care what side of the political spectrum on, you are seeing it. You are seeing lives being train wrecked. You are seeing 60% of the service industry is going to go under. There's millions of jobs, millions. I've said it last week. I won't Wednesday. I won't run through the whole thing again, but the real actual cost of shutting an economy down, short and long term, is massive. Now, let's quickly, and then I want to get to the comments, your guys' comments quickly. The hypocrisy is the last piece of this. Governor Cuomo, in New York said, well, this is a comical thing, right? He said, I don't know if you guys follow him, but I met Andrew Cuomo years ago when he was married to Kerry Kennedy, and I was at the Kennedy household, and he wasn't governor at the time. He was just a jerk. I watched it. He was a jerk to Ethel Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy's wife, sort of the matriarch of the Kennedy family, the last one, since, after Jackie's death. He was a total jerk. I think he always has been. I think it goes in the Cuomo family. Sorry if your Cuomos out there are listening, but, my experience watching what you guys do, how you do it when you're not on camera, and what I've seen personally, whatever. You guys got anger management issues. Maybe it's that. Calling you a jerk might be harsh. But anyway, he's a little Donald Trump-like. It's the truth, which is funny to me. I actually like Governor Cuomo. I actually said at the time during the pandemic, he did a decent job trying to manage his state. I think he did good. I think he got high marks. No one's going to be perfect. It's a tough battle. But he's got a thin skin, just like Trump, when he gets called out on stuff. A reporter called him out about the closing of the schools and said, are the schools closing? He's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Hours later, de Blasio closes Manhattan schools. But the hypocrisy, they close all the public schools, but not the private schools. What the F is that about? And the CDC has just come out and said it makes sense to keep schools open. So remember that whole debate? So we were having And all my friends who said I was crazy saying schools should be open were like, you're crazy, the danger, the damage you're doing. But you know what? Now the CDC says actually kids are safe and it makes sense. Kids, they're not 100% sure why, but kids do not seem to be massive spreaders of this. So kids being in school is not actually increasing a massive spread. They're not sure why. It's just not. I said from the beginning, I think kids get it less. I think kids are more vulnerable to it. We know it. We know that to be true. So there's the hypocrisy. We'll leave bars and restaurants open, but we'll close schools. The logic of lockdown is so haphazard, so made up, so throw everything at the wall and see what happens based on what our politics and who we're for and who we're against and where we're getting pressure. I'm for states having the right to choose. You can't have a national uniform lockdown. The country's too different. Plus, we're a country built on the idea that states get to make decisions for themselves. I will never back down on that. It's one of the beautiful things about this country. It's one of the things that kept Donald Trump in check, for those of you who hate him. The fact that he could say all the BS he wanted about, I'm going to order the governors to do it, and people would go nuts, and I'd be like, why are you getting worked up? He can't do crap. He can't tell the governors what to do. They get to decide. It's the beauty of America, the way we were set up. But that's hypocritical, closing all the schools in New York except the private schools. And, you know, I won't go off on Gavin Newsom too much, but, you know, his hypocrisy again of going to this dinner. And I actually, one of my viewers came back at me, and I appreciate you coming back at me with a long thing about it and said, Gavin Newsom apologized. Trump would never apologize. First, I'm not defending Trump. I'm not defending Trump. Trump's a jerk half the time. No, Trump would never apologize. Trump makes everything about him. Trump is petty. But that doesn't mean Gavin Newsom's apology means crap either. Because Gavin Newsom knew what he was doing, going to an upscale French eatery, and he hid it, and then he lied about it and said, we followed all social guidelines, but I still shouldn't have done it. They didn't follow any social health guidelines, didn't follow any COVID guidelines that they had out. They didn't wear masks. They weren't socially distanced. They weren't outdoors. They were indoors. They said it was technically an outdoor space. You look at it, it wasn't outdoors. It was like sealed in and shut down. I guess it was outdoors because they can lift the doors up if they want. I guess it should have been updoors. So that hypocrisy, right as he was doing this, should, as I said on Wednesday, make you think twice if they're not following their own rules. But who am I going to use as my last thought to back this up is Governor Cuomo. So again, a fellow Democrat. Governor Cuomo pissed at police officers in New York not wearing masks. A lot of cops don't wear masks. It's a protocol thing. They didn't in LA either. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it certainly is interesting that most cops are not wearing masks. I went up to a bunch of cops in LA. They were standing outside of 7-Eleven arresting a guy. And 15 of them. And I was like, why didn't none of you guys have masks on? I wasn't like being like, what that's wrong with you? I was just like, I'm curious. None of you are wearing masks. They're like, yeah, we don't generally wear them. It's like, interesting. Cuomo said, angry at law enforcement officers for not wearing masks. I violate the law, but you can't. No, nobody said you were above the law. That's his comment, being the guy. You think you can violate the law. You're a cop. I'm going to violate the law, but you can't. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what Gavin Newsom did. I violate the law, but you can't. An apology doesn't mean crap. It means that somewhere in Gavin Newsom's head, he doesn't feel those rules have to apply to everyone. If they don't have to apply to everyone, and if, as the Minnesota governor says, having a friend over or a brother-in-law over to watch the Vikings-Packer game is the most dangerous thing you could do. And if Gavin Newsom's telling everyone, you must stay inside, you must protect us, we all have to do this together. No, you can't violate it, and he violates it, it severely questions how much they actually think that's what you have to do. Now I am questioning his motives. I gave him the best intentions pass, but I'm questioning his motives at this point. And is he just stuck on doing this because it's the path they've been down? Think for yourselves about this, guys. That's all I want to say. You know, you're not left or right or wrong, because you can have a second thought on this thing. I know plenty of people in LA who suddenly were going, you know, I bought this for the first 3-4 months, and they're big. They're not right wing at all. They're very left. And we're like, I'm suddenly going, what the F is going on? Like, seriously. Because I can't do it anymore. I can't take it anymore. And it doesn't make any sense. And it's all haphazard anyway. And it's not working. But it's working in Florida. It's working in states that are more open. Tale of two worlds, or two cities, maybe. But it's worth considering. And honestly, it's worth us having a dialogue. All right. Thank you, guys. We had a lot of comments. All right, Crafty. Are you there, Crafty? Earth to Bruce Kraft. I lost my producer.
No, I'm here, Rob. I'm here. I'm just trying to handle all these comments. People were asking.
You know what, Bruce, you got to stop taking pee breaks in the middle of the show, man. I'm sorry. It's just,
it's just literally I got hundreds of comments over here from Reddit and YouTube. So,
okay, you ready? You got your mask on? All right,
I got my mask on.
All right, so here's how it's going to work. So a lot of you put comments up. I didn't address any of them. I saw them underneath, and part of it is I didn't like doing this the whole time. So now, we'll go through them one at a time. We'll just buzz through them, and we'll try not to do people too many times. Okay, sorry, Jimmy Stock. Thanks, Rob. Great show. Great. Talk to me, Taylor. Newsom's apology was empty as my bank account. Right, because if you're living in California, your bank account gets pretty low. If you aren't living anywhere with COVID right now, except Florida, your bank account is low. No, that's not fair. But I mean, I get it. Everybody's bank accounts have been hammered by this thing, and it's damn producers, Monkey Arms 1. And I'll hit comments and I'll refer back to comments. What's that?
I was going to say Monkey Arms if I could reach out and strangle him.
Right. Yeah, producers. It's all the producers' fault. COVID and the producers. The economic impact of this has been devastating. Let's just be honest. It's broken just about everybody except the rich and the elites. And that's another thing you should think about, especially if you're on the left. You're the People's Party. That's the left side in me. I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primaries. Just want everyone to know that. The first time. The left side, they didn't make it the second time. The left side of me. The lefter side of me. I'm all for the lower working class. I want power to the people. But I hate the fact that the only people not affected by this are celebrities, are wealthy people, are super wealthy people, are people with money, power, and power counts as money. They can afford to live and do what they need. If you're a governor or a mayor, you're still getting paid by us. So it's killing most people. So, if you're going to put these lockdowns down, then do the thing you're asking other people to do. And I don't mean just stay home, Gavin Newsom. I mean, literally, don't spend tons of money. Donate half of your money, half your income right now to people who need it. Spend every other day at a food bank. I don't know. Do something to put yourself closer to the people you are out there saying need to follow what you're doing, which one you're not even doing, but two, you could afford to do because you could have all the services and people and things and space and a big yard. I don't know, all the things you need to feel good. Next comment. I went off a little, Bruce. Sorry. Why do white people believe that the way you think matters so much? You can't influence nature with the way you think. Dem or rep, you all suffer from this egomania. Well, okay. Well, that's an interesting one. I didn't know that it was a white person thing to think the way you think matters. You're saying it's a white person thing to think the way you think matters? I mean, black people think the way you think matters too. I mean, I'm not clear on that. You can't influence nature with the way you think. You suffer from this egomania. But I don't know. I guess I do think the way we all think matters, to be honest. I think the way you think matters. I think the way each individual thinks matters. I mean, I think that's what makes human beings kind of unique is that we're able to think. That's just the thought on that.
And I've heard that too, but it's more like where people want to align themselves with a party. They don't want to be part of the losing party. So they have an ego attached to a certain direction or a certain party that they go with.
Okay, but that still doesn't count the white people part of that. All right, next comment.
True. There you go.
I've heard a few, I'm Chuck 36. A few sheriffs say they won't enforce mask mandate on national television. How do we expect people to take it seriously? Well, you know what? I think you don't. To be honest, listen, that's a great comment. And that's what Andrew Cuomo was saying, right? I violate the law, you don't. He's speaking and as if he's the law enforcement officer who said you were above the law. I would say two things. One, I would say it's a good point, but I would say, how do you expect people in California to take it seriously when Gavin Newsom violates his own thing, or in Chicago when Mayor Lightfoot or Mayor Bowser in D.C. all violate their own policies? Same point would be true. The reason why I think some sheriffs aren't doing it is not necessarily a political thing, although at some extent it's got to be, right? But there seems to be a reaction on the part of law enforcement, which is one, we can't handle any more than we got. And the last thing we want to be doing is pissing everybody off because we're going around telling you we're giving you citations or knocking on your door to see how many people you have for Thanksgiving. So I think at some level, there may be some politics in it, but it's an authority thing as well. And I think there's a part it should scare you a little bit that law enforcement, instead of going, yeah, we're cracking down, or it should make you happy that our law enforcement doesn't just do what the government tells them, is going, we are not stepping that far on people's heads. We're just not. We got enough other stuff to worry about. Next comment. Keep them coming, Crafty. Come on. No more potty breaks. No more. Geez, gotta get this out of the bathroom.
There was one I wanted to show you here.
No,
Ready?
Put them up. Weird. I only hear about keeping it weird. I only hear about the nursing home tragedy blame, but not what the proper solution that should have been implemented. Okay, that is a fantastic question. Appreciate that question. Keeping it weird. So in fairness, you're right. Governor Cuomo got blasted for that. And again, there's a partisanship in that blasting, right? I mean, the right was looking to attack Cuomo because everyone was attacking Trump. And, Cuomo was the easy target because he was doing such a great job. I thought he was going to step in and run for president at one point. The problem with what Cuomo did was, and again, I'm the first to say, I don't think anybody could have always known the right move. I don't think Governor Andrew Cuomo acted intentionally, just disregarding the lives of people. He made a bad call, thinking that putting everyone in and locking down these nursing homes was safe. If anything, it kind of reinforces what I was saying, that lockdowns don't necessarily work. They can trap and they found that a lot of the contagion of the virus right now is in the last few months during lockdowns came from people inside households. So you're like keeping everybody in there and they're all getting it. That's what happened in the nursing homes. I don't know that I know what the right solution was. I don't think locking them down was. I mean, I think we made a whole bad call to start with. I think we should have thrown every single dollar and resource we could at the people in need, at the elderly, at people with underlying conditions that could be easily identified, and figured out ways to take care of them and give them services and resources. But the group lockdown in the nursing homes is where the problem happened. And again, I think Governor Cuomo made a mistake. I don't think he should get over and over skewered for it. I do think he should come out and acknowledge in a bigger way that he made a big mistake. And I think we need to let people make mistakes during something like this, because how could you possibly know all the possible right answers? But great question.
Well, we did have those. Those carriers, those medical carriers, right? And the idea was once the COVID patients were starting to heal up, you would move them over, or you would deal with a little bit of the overflow. But they were never used by any of the states, and yet they were there. They were there to be used. So what happens? Everyone who was infected by COVID, let's just put it inside the old folks' homes. Right.
Well, that was part of it too. But that's different. That's different. Right. But they also did with the elderly. All right, next question. Crafty, it's a bummer if you're going to be talking to me because you're not on screen. I wish you were going to. You're not. It's all right. All right, hold on. Nature doesn't. Wait. Are we back to? We got another nature one. Nature doesn't give a shit about your rights as individuals or as states. The virus isn't different. Stay open. It will spread. It will kill more thousands of you. All right. That seems a little hostile. I'm not going to lie. I agree that nature doesn't care about your rights as individuals or as states. And it's a great point. Nature doesn't care. Nature never has, right? Storms don't pick on people. It just, natural disasters tend to hurt the poorer simply because they don't have the resources to protect themselves the way the wealthier do. But the storm doesn't pick poor people. And COVID doesn't pick poor people. COVID doesn't pick Republicans. COVID doesn't pick Democrats. So it's actually a good point. The virus will spread. That is a true fact. I think that we are going to see an increasing drop in the death rates, and we already are. And you're going to see as a percentage of the number of people who have it. Because remember, I'm estimating we're not even counting 40% of the people who have it, because it's asymptomatic in 40% of the population. The numbers are going to end up being closer to higher than the flu, which was 0.5% in the US. But I'll bet they're not much. I bet they're closer to 1%. Maybe closer to 0.5% over time as it flattens out. And with a vaccine, that'll flatten it out. So, but good point. Good point. Couple more, Bruce, before we wrap up. Let's go faster. I got to go faster. I made a commitment to go faster. I'll go faster. If the message is clear, Monkey Arms, and everyone knows what the policy is, that's the best you can do. They're not trying to enforce it. Okay, fair point. Moving on. Good point. Right. They made the message. Everyone knows what it is. They're not trying to enforce it. But yet they're mad at the cops for not enforcing it. But I get why the cops don't. Okay, Monkey Arms, you said this before. Florida rates are not 200% of California. You can go to the Center for Disease Control and you can look. Florida's rates are 30.
He says they have been almost 200% of California.
And they're not. The last week, Florida's rates are 33.1 for every 100,000 people.
Do you have the website?
It's the CDC website. And California, you can look it up. California's rates are 24.4. As I said, Florida's 33.1, California's 24.4 per 100,000 people. 24.4 people per 100,000, 33.1 people per 100,000. That is a difference of 0.01%. Do the math. Next comment.
Yep, coming up.
Okay, we got not all Monkey Arms here, man. Monkey Arms, you're getting a lot of attention. Sorry, man. I love you, Monkey Arms. I don't even know you, but I am. Wait. I'm being rational. What do I mean not being rational? This was early on. New York was ground zero. I said clearly, I get why New York did what it did. Let me be really clear. Sometimes I feel like our biases prevent us from hearing what someone's saying. I have that issue a lot too. I want to be clear. I'm not picking on Governor Cuomo. New York was ground zero. It was an impossible situation to deal with. They did what they thought they needed to do. I said at the time publicly, Cuomo is doing a good job trying to manage this pandemic. The fact that I think the guy's kind of a jerk and that I think he does the same kinds of things Trump does and doesn't get called out for it, the way he deals with the press, people who disagree with him, it's nothing to do with whether I think he handled the pandemic the bbest he could. And I just said New York's actually at the lower end. It's actually a little below Florida in percentage per 100,000 cases in the last few weeks. A testament to the fact that they managed a terrible crisis and managed it well. So I'm not picking on New York, and it was ground zero. I'm picking on states like California that locked down early before they had high case counts, have not ever unlocked and still have cases growing and at really about the same rate as states that are open. Okay, a couple more. We got time for 3 or 4 more.
Yep.
Kids are spreaders. It's a fact. They are vectors. Don't make stuff up on the fly. Actually, not making stuff up on the fly. In fact, that's not a made up thing at all. You can check out the CDC just came out with something yesterday in which they said they believe it's safe to have schools open. And they also, you can see several leading epidemiologists, including people that if you are more on the left would be in your camp, have said that it surprised everyone, but it turns out schools and kids are not super spreaders. They're not 100% sure why. There's actually even somebody went on CNN and said, I have to say it, I hate saying Donald Trump is right, but he was right that schools were not super spreaders. And the CDC's just said it. And, and I'm not making stuff up on the fly. And again, not naming names, I have a good friend who is a pediatric ER doctor in Manhattan, very well established. And he would be the first to tell you kids are completely safe. And he has little kids. He's like, kids are fine. And he's an excellent pediatric ER doctor at one of the best hospitals in Manhattan. Very well respected. It's politically dangerous for him to say that, but privately he'd say they're fine. So I'm not making stuff up on the fly. Careful with your accusations there. I love it. Keep it coming. Okay, 2 more. You can throw it all at me. Legalize recreational dining. This is my favorite comment of the night. Digital Sonics. I love it. I think it's a great hashtag. Legalize recreational dining. That's genius. That's brilliant. That made me laugh. That's great. Let's do it. Let's legalize recreational dining again. I'm for it. Okay, one more, Bruce, before we wrap it.
Yeah, this one hits a little close to home.
Florida has the worst governor in the country other than maybe South Dakota. Well, MChalk 35, I am not defending the governor of Florida one way or the other. And he may be the worst governor. And I don't know if you live in Florida or don't live in Florida. I am merely saying, Bruce, can we show those pictures before we go?
Sure.
These are some pictures, guys, I took. A little restaurant I was standing by tonight. And I try to block out my screen here. Show that. Yeah. Okay. And the big one. Show the big one. All right. That is a restaurant about a mile from where I am. There's a bunch of people, young and old. Nobody super old. And it's hard to see if you don't blow it up. but none of them are wearing masks. They're all seated around. A couple of people have masks around their neck. Thanks. You can pull it down, Bruce. And that's Florida pretty much everywhere. And my point is, if they're doing this, and they've been doing this for months, not for a couple days, not for the holiday, and that kind of closeness and that kind of proximity in restaurants all over Florida, the fact that it has not literally created, a number of 10,000 times higher than California, that literally Floridians are not dropping dead. The fact that it's, whether you are, argue the number, like I said, you can look it up. The percentage in the last week is 0.01% different, higher in Florida, 0.01%, six people per 100,000, 6 per 100,000 people higher in Florida than California. The fact that it's not 50,000 people higher, given that that's how people behave in Florida every single day, that they're not all going home and causing super spreader events, should tell you something. So the governor of Florida may be a horrible governor, but I believe he was right, as other states that refuse to do lockdowns and refuse to stick to them, in that he's creating a healthy economy, And you got tons of people coming here, and to Tennessee, by the way. And a lot of them are liberals, like the liberal Hollywood elite. They're getting out of California and moving to Florida because you can actually live a normal life. But my point is, the fact that those events, that's happening everywhere, every 2 blocks you've got that, in Florida, is not created massive spreaders where the numbers are off the charts high, tells you that clearly being open, is not causing a massive spread much higher than a state like California, where you would never see that anywhere in Los Angeles County or Marin County or pretty much anywhere in the state. And yet the numbers are 6 per 100,000 different. That's my point on that. All right. You guys, that was awesome. Do we have a positive comment, Bruce? We got to end on a negative?
No, here's one that's funny.
All right, good. Let's end on humor. Florida is the worst. Okay, we get another negative Florida. You know what, you guys? You can hate on Florida. You can hate on Florida, monkey arms. I don't know where you are, but I'm temporarily living here in Florida, and you can say it's the worst. And I've heard that before I even came. People are like, going to the redneck state or whatever. Listen, then maybe I'm a redneck. I don't know. I'm from Wisconsin. Life is pretty good here. I'll just be honest. It's not only not super expensive. People are really great. People are friendly. People are kind. People, I had a little car thing happen. I messed my friend's car up, which, he's never going to forgive me for, but maybe one day he will. People literally stopped to help me, like 8 different cars. People get out. Families got out. I thought a couple guys were going to they were gangbangers. I thought they were going to jack me. They're like, you want us to help you? I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you can. We can push your car. Everyone was friendly. People are a lot nicer here. I don't feel people are divided around the politics. Sure, there's a lot of division. There's division around race, economic inequality. I'm in Jacksonville. There's super racial division issues here that need to get addressed. There's super economic division issues here that need to get addressed. It's hardly like a panacea. It's a little microcosm of America, and it's got a lot of work to do, a lot of healing to do. But overall, I don't know why people diss on it so much, because it's actually, it's a pretty cool place. All right. Thanks, monkey arms. I appreciate that. I like that. I'll take an awesome on the way out. You're awesome too. All right, everybody. Thanks for being part of tonight. This was a blast, a lot of fun. You know what? All I'm going to say is my closing thoughts on the way out. Not trying to change your mind about something. I just want everyone to at least be open to think about the side they're not seeing, because it's so easy to get stuck in the path and the narrative we're on. And that kind of blinder can only hurt us. It can't help us on both sides. It's what I said to people when they didn't want to wear masks. I was like, come on. Just because they're making it a political thing, put the mask on. It's just common sense. It's okay. And if it's not it's not a barrier against everything. It's not a hazmat suit. But if at the end of the day, if it's making people feel comfortable even, and if it's doing anything to stop the spread, that's a positive. So I'd say the same thing on the other side. When you're in lockdown mania, just consider maybe it's not working. And maybe the damage it's doing to you and the people around you, and the people you don't even know, and the kids, just in the last thought on that school thing, school, what we are doing to kids by keeping them out of school. Forget about the fact that the private schools in Manhattan are open so that people with money can send their kids to school, the people who can afford daycare. But the families that can't, the families that actually need to work, and maybe they don't even have jobs, but certainly can't afford daycare, they have to have their kids now home too? I mean, that alone is a travesty when we know kids are essentially fine around this. So just be open. There is a common ground to this. We are all stuck with the pandemic, whatever it is, however long it lasts. So let's kind of come together a little bit and try to see common ground solutions rather than stay in our camps. Goes for both sides. I'm a Libra. I'm Rob Nelson. This is Rob Nelson Live. Thanks for watching.